I, a little bit ago, had a job at a mortuary. I don't know if you can tell by my choice in fashion today, but I quite enjoyed it. It actually all started in church. I was sitting at church. This man came up to me, who I later found out owned a mortuary, and he said, "Oh, how you doing today?" I mentioned that I was doing pretty good, but I was looking for a job. So he asked me the next natural question, which is, "How are you with dead people?" And smelling a job opportunity coming along, I answered him honestly and said, "Some of my favorite people are dead." Apparently that was the only criteria, because I immediately got the job. I would honestly recommend working at a mortuary. It's not for everybody. You constantly have to work the graveyard shift, and it's a bit of a stiff working environment. But if you're willing to take care of those two things, work is very fulfilling. My job was to drive the hearse and transport the cadavers from the place where they died to the cooler. And the whole time I had that job, I never had a passenger complain. The first removal, that's what we call it, removing the body. The first removal I did was at this retirement home. The guy's name was Dave. And I remember just first thing, like bright and early in the morning, not too early, like 9 a.m. I went out to this retirement home, driving the hearse with my partner, the person I was assigned to go with. And I remember we walked in, and the receptionist seemed quite confused as to why we had come. But there's only like a handful of reasons anyone drives a hearse to a retirement home. So really her question was just, "Oh, what are you here for?" I said, "We're here for Dave." She said, "Dave's dead? Aww." With all of the devastation you might feel after dropping an ice cream cone. I often think, what relationship does she have with Dad? Is this like a weekly thing? Is this like a monthly thing? Is there like, how many people were there today? And she's like, "Oh, hang on, who are you here for? I don't know what the deal was there." But Dave turned out to be a pretty well-liked guy. People, when we walked down, people would be shouting, "Who is it?" I said, "Dave." "Oh, Dave?" Really surreal. I'm glad they made peace with death, though. We went to Dave's room, found him there. He was a war veteran, which is relevant because he was missing a leg. Part of my job was to wrap the body in a bed sheet, which, as it turns out, is far more difficult if the body is not symmetrical. So I always assumed that there'd be some sort of trick to wrapping a body. There is not. There's no trick to wrapping a body. There's no trick to lifting a body. You just gotta get real comfortable, real fast, just heave them forward, just stuff the bed sheet under, just roll them back. Got him all wrapped up because he's asymmetrical. Like this side's loose and that side's tight. Since this side's loose, his arm keeps sliding out. I keep like shoving it back in. Slide out. Shove it back in. That's what we got to take care of. So I then gain an intimate understanding of why a deadlift is called a deadlift. Heave him up, pull him over to the stretcher, and his arm falls out, and shove it back in. But it was great. We got them all on the stretcher, and this particular retirement home liked to do processions, which means after we put them on the stretcher with a sheet and a blanket, we put a coffin-length American flag over it, and we pushed them down the hall. So it was very spiritual, wonderful moment where just kind of like carrying this guy. All of his friends came out to like pay their respects, and they got this other veteran to carry this bugle and play it in front. But it wasn't a real bugle; it was a plastic bugle with this button on the front. And as we were going, this person who worked at the retirement home would go and push the button, and it would play this little song on the tiny cheap speaker inside, and then it would run out. So the retirement home lady would come back, push the button again, we'd show it. Still very, majestic, I think, that Dave apparently had a lot of friends. He was the easiest one to remove. The next two removals were at hospices, which is weird because, you'd think that would be much easier to do. Like, that's kind of the point of a hospice, right? They know what the end goal is there. But the hospices, there were some very tight halls. Was there some creative maneuvering of the stretcher? And the bed didn't raise up to the level of the stretcher like the funeral home did. Really just got to practice that bear hug, deadlift, bring them up, put them over. Honestly, I would still recommend working at a mortuary. It's a lot of fun, got some great stories about it. And, contrary to popular belief, it's not a dying industry. The only two certainties in life are death and taxes. before I worked at a funeral home, I worked at a public library, which means I found a way to monetize both of those things. Thank you, everybody. This is my first time, so...